Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. We're doing another weekly roundup of class analysis. Obviously, there was significant tuning that has come in and now had a lot of time to sit and linger and to see what has happened. Where's the movement for certain specializations been going? What are my opinions on certain specializations that might be sleeper and possibly just not popular at the moment? And if you want to stay up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational and entertaining content, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. So we can see prior to the class tuning that Beastmaster Hunter was trending really high. And even despite not a significant amount of nerfs coming to Beast Mastery Hunter, they have dropped down a bit in popularity. I think this is likely other specializations kind of being the food chain counter to them, getting buffs and a bit stronger, like the heavy plate classes like Death Knights and Warriors. I think, indirectly, even without nerfing Beast Mastery Hunters, their counter getting stronger means that they're starting to trend a little bit lower, and they're kind of more in the mix with a couple of other specializations. And I think that's likely going to be a trend that kind of continues, but Beastmaster Hunter is still easily one of the best specializations, top performing specializations, and it's great if you're a beginner or a newcomer to the game. You're just looking for some easy rating without too much complexity, to say the least. Now, Red Paladin was trending decently high, considering for a while it was towards the bottom, and with the changes that came through, it's still trending in a really good and positive direction overall. I've seen a lot of Paladins, running Templar, getting really big Hammer of Light crits, so it's looking like a really strong specialization. I think it's likely doing really well in this meta with a bunch of Hunters and Rogues and the like, so it's probably really enjoying that with the toolkit that it has specifically and the amount of burst damage that it has readily available to it. It's looking like a really solid specialization still, landing on December 8th at about 9.44. Now we've got Fury Warrior, which has just been holding constant, although I think towards the beginning of the patch, everyone was saying that Warrior it's really bad. It's not really super competitive. In the tournaments, we're seeing it lose every game. But on ladder, it's still holding really strong towards the top end. And it's holding at an 8.21 at the moment on December 8th. So Fury Warrior is still a remarkable specialization if that's something that you want to be chasing after. Arms is on its heels. We could see a bit of a spike here. The week prior, although it's at 6.95 down from 8.21. Arms Warrior got a defense buff to its Colossus tree, which is something that I want to try, but on my stream I've been given a lot of challenges from my chat to try and do things with tank specializations, which is getting me some data to give you guys if you were ever curious about that type of stuff. And I gotta tell you right now, I would never recommend Prot Warrior to my greatest enemy, at least for solo shuffle. Battlegrounds World PvP, a lot of fun, but solo shuffle, not so much. But Arms Warrior Colossus is something that I wanted to try, and it's probably something I'm going to log on my stream today, actually, to see how much more tankier it is, given the improvements to its durability on that hero talent tree. But it's still holding decently strong. Like, it's hovering above a lot of the other specializations, even despite its inherent weaknesses to mages and hunters and Ellie shamans. It's still doing decently well, despite I say the reputation that it's built up. And honestly, when I see it usually doesn't do that well, but it seems to be trending pretty high still. Windwalker Monk saw a big bump right after the tuning changes that came through. Everybody was expecting it to take over. It seems like it's kind of equalizing out. It's not really kind of just like boomy, like BM Hunter all the way to the moon. It's kind of evening out. WW just going through the mid. Seems like if you want to play Windwalker, you like the play style, it's going to be at least a decently competitive option for you. But it's definitely not like the remarkable superstar that I think a lot of players were anticipating with the buffs that came through for it because they were so significant. And now this purple line that's kind of like sinking between everything here in the middle, that's it's not at the bottom, is Havoc Demon Hunter. I'm honestly surprised to see it up here. It's kind of in the 4 to 5 mark in the middle of the pack. I thought it was going to be a lot lower than that. I'm a bit curious to see what its win rate has been like here. So it's got an increase of about 2% on its win rate, which is a pretty sizable increase. It's still actually holding above 50%. And I think like the ideal targets for this is like every spec is about 50%. So it's a little bit above that. Maybe it's not as bad. I think that it's really good into casters. So maybe with the changes that came through with Destrolock, I've seen a lot more of those. You're getting more lobbies with spellcasters, and maybe this is what we're seeing this trend for Demon Hunter. But I would not say that this trend towards the middle means that it's super powerful. I think it's kind of a niche counter spec, does well into casters, doesn't do so well into rogues and kind of melee classes. at the moment. You can kind of just get bursted down really quickly in stuns there, but slow dot classes, which are strongly Shadow Priests and Warlocks, it's doing really good in those types of scenarios. And now we're starting to get like kind of collided with a bunch of lines all at the same time. So all of these specs, I would say, are likely, you know, pretty standard performance. You're going to be getting a really good experience from them. It's really the specs towards the bottom that I think we got to kind of like gravitate our eyes to. Augmentation Evoker is probably the biggest sleeper spec in the entire game right now. There is a one-shot with it at the moment with Breath of Eons where you can just deep breath through and you proc a bunch of eruptions on your deep breath, and it absolutely KOs anybody in front of them. But aside from that, that cheese, I could definitely see it, you know, not being super solid. But if you wanted to play a spec where you literally press one button and you can kill something, and, you know, maybe you like totally don't want to get, you know, understand PvP, you just want to just go in and meme and one-shot people, Aug Evoker is actually going to deliver that to you really easily. It's easily the best one shot in the game and easy one shot to pull off. It's literally just press deep breath and it procs a bunch of stuff and kills anything that's in its path. So, and I've seen it a couple times, but its overall representation is still holding pretty low. And then sadly, Fire Mage, although it received a significant amount of changes, it's still struggling to keep up with Frost. I think one of the things that made it competitive with Frost in the past was that Frost wasn't all instant damage. You had to Glacial Spike, you had to Ray, and Fire's advantage was that it was instant cast. So Frost had to cast spells, but it had snares. Fire didn't have snares, but it had mostly instant casts. And those were the trades in terms of strengths and weaknesses. But now Frost can mostly instant cast and has snares. So it's really tough for Fire to compete with that. There's no kind of like trade-off in terms of strengths and weaknesses. You're just kind of an inferior Frost Mage that doesn't have as much control over certain situations. So it's really sad for Fire Mage. I feel like Fire Mage is definitely one of the specs that's going to likely need another bump, or they're going to have to do something about Frost Mage's damage distribution, because I mean, we can see Frost Mage, right? It's trending really high still at 6.49. Maybe bring some damage out of its instant damage and put it into its casted damage moving into the future. I don't really know what their plans are as far as class changes, because we received that class changing pretty significant amount of time ago. They do have 11.0.7 coming with a lot of race changes that I'm going to be making a video to kind of discuss my final thoughts on the changes that they're coming through. I'm wondering if they're going to update it, because we do still have one more week. Maybe we'll see some class changes come through. So really important, again, hit the subscribe button so you're not missing out on that. But I'd really like to see Fire Mage receive some tuning if that update does actually come through. Be curious also about Mythic Plus, because if Mythic Plus has some balance tuning issues, then I think likely there's going to be something coming through there. Arcane saw a bit of a jump at the the beginning of it, but it kind of still hovered towards the bottom end, and I've been having the most fun on my Arcane Mage. I think I'm one lobby away from completing the 2400 challenge on it, and it is by far the most fun specialization I've ever played, but it is also the most complex specialization, and in situations against like elemental shamans and outlaw rogues that have good uptime and lots of disruption, it gets really tilting. You're going to get really agitated in those situations, and it's really tough to navigate through them. So I think mostly its complexity is holding it back. Also the fact that it can be shut down in those situations, whereas Frost has the advantage of just being, again, mostly instant cast, enabling it to get around some of those pain points that Arcane has to deal with because it has to cast so frequently. But even despite it kind of trending on the lower end of this graph, it is by far the most fun spec I've ever played. Like when I log on, it's literally the first spec that I want to log in. It's the first spec that I want to send because it is just so much fun. We've seen Feral Druid kind of falling off. It's kind of, it's just been in the middle of the pack, even despite everybody talking about how good it is. So let's just flip over kind of to a different stats page here to get a better idea of this, because when we're looking at it like that, it's kind of hard to tell with the middle of the pack. But Feral Druid is just kind of holding solid in the mid. Like it's actually falling behind Demonology Warlock, which I was not expecting. I thought Feral Druid would still be a really dominant force. I did try playing it a little bit myself, but it does seem like it's kind of starting to fall to the wayside here, even despite no changes being made. So that's kind of the crazy thing. Sometimes no changes being made, meta can still shift on its own. We definitely saw Frost DK really benefit from these changes, though. We can see like Frost DK was like down here. Frost DK, they hit it right on the money. I think Frost DK feels way better. Marksmanship Hunter, even though I don't think the changes were enough, it's still doing better, at least overall trending on participation. So I think this is really good as far as representation above 2100. Let's just see about 2400. I'm a bit curious if it starts to. So these BM hunters probably sat there rating a lot of them that were over 2400. But it does get a little bit more top heavy towards Shadow Priest, Affliction Warlock, and Fury Warrior when you're playing at the top end. For anybody who's playing at 1800, like you're looking for like the best specs to get elite sets, Yeah, I was going to say, Disc Priest got to be the best. Disc Priest is just a really good spec at the moment, especially if you're somebody who just really likes playing the game. And even though the popularity is going down, you want fast queues, fun gameplay. Disc Priest functions, as a pseudo DPS. So it's a really good role to pick up in terms of power, performance, and fun right now, and queue time. I would recommend it easily to anybody right now that's in that camp that doesn't really have a lot of time in the evening to wait for long queues. It's really good. It's really fun. I really enjoy it. So I'm not surprised to see it here as one of like the best specs for going to 1800. But you'll see a lot of specs are, these graphs are like when we look at 2400, right? It starts to fall off a little bit harder. I think it falls off even like almost completely. How are there only enhancement shamans at 2700 plus? This is what I'm saying, man. Like I swear the game it's getting really good in terms of balance. And I bet this is literally all 9 of these are big dams enhancement shamans. But if you're, committed and you get good at the spec that you want to play, there's some 2800s. Oh, no, there aren't. Okay. So ladder's inflating. There are more players about 2700, I think, than last time. 2400 looked like 2700 the last time I remember looking at this graph. So MMR is definitely going up. I think with the patch coming through, hopefully some more racial updates and hopefully some more class tuning adjustments for 11.0.7 as well as a couple of tweaks, not anything like really major or significant. And with some MMR injection, then I think that patch is likely, that's when the season is going to be coming close to its end. So MMR is going to be getting to its highest. Participation is likely going to be getting higher as a result. And then we're going to see kind of like the end of season pushes, which is that's really the most fun time to play the game, in my opinion. That's when I'm having the most fun playing it. But definitely those changes improved the game. I think the gameplay is better off for it. Some specs still have some pain points. Level complexity issues, but even rogue specs, which are typically like the least represented, are climbing the ranks. I got to level my rogue. I really want to try assassination. I see assassination come here kind of the middle of the pack, and it's kind of jumping out to me like I gotta try this. But definitely big improvements. When we look at the healers, because did I not click for healers? Oh no, we have healers here. It seems like overall it's improved. Obviously Disc and Paladin are definitely dwarfing everybody else, but Mystery Reaver landed in a really good spot. Druid came up a bit. Holy Priest has come up a lot. I think it was like less than 1% the last time that I looked at Holy Priest. Arsham seems like it's still a bit of a struggle. I've been enjoying my Resto Druid when I've been playing it. You likely see me on that on my stream when I'm trying to get fast queues because I can't take the queues either. But I've been enjoying it. So the healer balance is getting better. So Resto Shaman I think is another spec, much like Fire Mage. I'd like to see a couple of tuning adjustments to try and take it up. Blood DK, even despite getting nerfed, is still holding strong, and it's still really powerful. Looks like Vengeance Demon Hunter is the hardest tank. If you were to try and you want it, hardest spec in the game to climb on the ladder might be Vengeance Demon Hunter. Hopefully nobody in my stream gets any ideas on trying to get me to do a Vengeance Demon Hunter challenge, because there's literally one guy above 2100. There's one Brewmaster being the second at only 2 Brewmasters, and then probably surprisingly with higher representation than that. And I actually did Prop Pally challenges last night, and Prop Paladins only queue into other Prop Paladins, and they're the healer for their team. And the games are crazy, bro. The games are crazy. They're super fast. They're actually wild in those, and some people absolutely hate them. It was definitely different for me to try when I was challenged to do that. I don't know if I could do it long term, because the game, it's like a completely different game with how this works, because they don't have a lot of throughput, so they're just kind of like trying to rotate the most efficiently with their cooldowns against the other prot, and there's ways to outplay their cooldowns and CC their cooldowns. So there's a lot of weird intricate interactions that don't exist in any other matchup. So it's really pushing my brain as far as challenges there. But I've been expanding, trying to get more information for you guys, to give you guys the information for the best experience that's going to be possible for you. So if you'd like to support my content, smash the subscribe button. Other than that, thank you very much for tuning into this weekly update, and I will see you in the next one.